Maybe it's that time already, holidays are upon us, right? Halloween just around the corner. But I'm definitely grateful. I think I have an echo. So let me do that. Hopefully that helps. Why does it keep doing an echo? Sorry. That's that. Does someone have a phone? 1 second. Maybe if I switch it, take that off. I had the laptop and also the computer up here. So, okay, I think I fixed it. So can we start over again? How's everyone doing this afternoon? So much for being here. Better. Awesome. So let's go with our mission and our vision and our belief. Our mission is to provide agents with a place where they will be empowered, trained, and motivated to experience growth, wealth, and a legacy that allows them to live their best life possible. Our belief, when the value of your own company align with your own beliefs, you found your professional home. And then our vision is to achieve amazing professionals and personal development so that KWSB remains the agency of choice. Next slide, please. All right, so we have a little twist and wanted to bring Ryan and Mason up here. So let's give Ryan and Mason a round of applause. Thank
you so much. Full honesty, I've got my closest client. We talk every day. About 2 months ago, he gave me some petitions that he wanted to get signed that will hopefully repeal Prop 19. He owns a ton of apartment buildings, and basically he's concerned that when he dies, his children are going to be taxed extremely heavily. And so I know all of us as agents, like when I think about that, the honest truth is I'm like, well, I'd like to sell a lot of those properties if that happens and that tax comes through. So I'm not going to get involved in anyone's personal opinion on Prop 19, but if you wouldn't mind, I got a call from him yesterday. He asked me to get as many signatures as I can get signed on these petitions. So I'll be hanging out after the meeting. If you guys want to talk to me about it, ask me any questions, and sign this thing, I'd be really appreciative of that. So I wanted to let you guys know that.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, pass it off. From a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you all. So obviously this is a petition, right? To submit to the voters. How many people own real estate? A lot of us do, right? So the importance of this and the legacy that can be behind to your family. So I think it's an important cause, and it's a habit that helps us as real estate professionals, but also as real estate investors that we own property as well. So thank you, Mason. Thank you, Brian, for bringing this alertness to us. And if you could fill that out as a petition. Now, are you going to be collecting this, Mason?
Yeah, I'm going to be hanging out after. And, don't feel pressure. So,
yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and continue. Next slide, please. Just a friendly reminder. Have you walked the office lately? Are you noticing something? Right? Yeah. Sort of feels like a haunted house in here. Look at this. Alleghena, Kevin, and Leanne. I even have a big old spider web on my office. Chris and Carlos have a little thing going on, a net thing. I don't know if it's spider web, whatever. Some of the coolest doors. So again, if you have an office or if you want to decorate on behalf of one of the private offices, we're doing a competition and it's an office door contest. Make sure that you decorate it before the 24th. The winners will be announced at the holiday party and must be present. Okay, so the festivities, and South Bay here definitely is really engaged when it comes to Halloween parties. last year and every year since I remember, it's always been an awesome Halloween event. Music, food, and beverage, and just the festivities. And then obviously get to meet your family as well. So don't forget, and then obviously our Halloween event, I can't believe it's already next Thursday. Jeez. Thursday, October 26th from 5 to 8. Join us for costumes. So please, if you're gonna come dressed up. Okay, I'm gonna come as a broker. Yes. No, but in all seriousness, it's awesome to see so many people get dressed up, and we'll definitely have a contest as well. To see who has the best. Who was the winner? I think Bob Lavaco last year. Yeah, that was an amazing costume he had in his wife. I think Ray Milton also had a awesome costume. So there was a lot of awesome, scary, and not so scary costumes. So again, come dress to impress in your best costume on Thursday, October 26th. Okay, next slide. All right, so Matt Goodland from Fidelity National Title providing us with some insights to what's going on. Morning, the Reds needed.
So I left a couple of things on most of your desks there. Hopefully you got them. If you don't, I have a few more left here. The first I want to quickly go through, not real detailed, but there's a new legislation now, which is AB 1033, which they've actually approved for ADUs to become a saleable item on your property. So that's the goal, is to make an ADU be able to be sold separately from the house. That's what this is approved. Now, granted, there's a lot of steps to that. There's a lot of stuff that's going to take place in order for that to happen. So every county has to go through a process of getting it approved first. And then the cities within each county have to then approve theirs. So this is a long time coming out the door, but places like LA City, my prediction is they'll do all of it and say yes, because they're very, very much into having ADUs and having people live in more rental housings and things like that. The challenge is, if you think about it, they're going to have their own tax bills. Well, if you have your own tax bill, you have your own APN number. All those houses have one APN number with an ADU on it. So those are going to have to somehow be separated with another tax ID number. There's a ton of steps for this to take place. I'm just bringing it to your attention that it's out there. It might be a discussion that someone comes to you and says, hey, did you hear about? Just read this enough to understand it. It's nothing that's going to be now, but it will be discussions in your conversations. But what I could see happening is, and I'm going to skip to the next thing here, because again, the details here are just too far out to know what it will be, but it is something that is going to be discussions. Every city will talk about it. Okay. This one that I handed you, which is the farming. If you look to the far right, there, it says renovate. Okay. Well, renovate is a link in our Fidelity Total Farm that you can actually click on for any farm you have in the account, and it'll pull the records that have the most buildable land. Okay, so what it's going to do is it's going to pull all the properties with 30% or less in improved value. That means there's not a lot done to it for many years, so it's an older property on at least a 7,000 square foot lot or bigger. So big lot, not an improved property, maybe an older home, 1,500 square feet or less. So renovate. I could foresee renovate being an investor purchase, and they can put an ADU on it and now build two and sell them separately. It's almost like Redondo Beach when they would run two lots and sell them separately. But this is going to be statewide and then citywide as it becomes to grow and grow. So I'm only bringing that to your attention because it's new and you should at least know about it. So let's go through this in a little bit more detail. I have them sitting on some tables out there and many of them right here. So this is information all taken from Fidelity Total Farm. So if you have that product, you can do everything I'm showing you here. If you don't, you can ask me for an account right there at the bottom. Or if you wanted me to provide one of these unique farms, I can do any of these for you for any zip code. Just take a look at this. I've given you all the Torrance zip codes, Hermosa, Manhattan, and Lawndale, Hawthorne. That's what I kind of put on here just as random. My database didn't quickly have a couple of the other local ones in it, so I couldn't do it quickly. But as you can see, I'm giving you a total count. Now, if we were talking 3 years ago, the turnover rates were mostly in the 3s to 5s. And now, as you can see, those turnover rates are the 2s and some 1s. So the turnover rate, we all know that the market's a little slower, there's no listings coming out, so that's what you have right there, is very low turnover rates. But as we go down the list, you can see 25+ years, those are people who've owned for more than 25 years. More than likely, they're gonna be in the 50-year-old, that means if they bought when they were 30, they'd be 55. Most purchases right now are in the 35-year-old, 40-year-old range, so easily people in their mid-50s. All of that clientele right there would qualify for, I think Mason talked about Prop 19 being repealed, which used to be Prop 6090. All of those people would be qualifying for a Prop 19 type of market. They could take their current low tax base and move it to a different property, which you get to do there. So if someone wants to sell their property, which has like maybe a $4,000 tax bill on it every year, and they could buy something in another county in the state of California, maybe near their kids, they could move their $4,000 tax bill to another property based on their higher sale price. So if they sold for $1.5 million, they could buy somewhere else in the state of California, let's just say for $1.5 million, and take a $4,000 tax bill with them, instead of taking an $18,000 tax bill with them. People don't want to move on that. So it helps them decide to move. In your case, it helps you get a listing, maybe a second sale. Okay? Yes.
Is that regardless of their income?
No income restrictions, it's all age. It's 55 and older. They have to have a homeowner exemption filed on their home. You might make that note. You must have a homeowner exemption filed on your home. If you ever need that document, it's on the assessor site, and Ronnie has it. I can send it to you if you need it. So it's an easy option. Next, most likely to sell and ready to sell. Those are interesting numbers, right? So the most likely to sell, we have 29 data points that we run. And people ask me, well, what are they? If I told you, I'd have to kill you. So I can get to say that. No, actually, I don't get to know them. It comes from the company we subscribe to, and they won't tell me either. I can tell you, though, we take the most likely to sell, and we take the farm that you pulled, and we add one more component to it, which is the stay years. And what's a stay year farm? A stay year is we take the average amount of time that homeowners live in a particular farm. Let's just say we take the average amount of time that people live in 90501, the top there. Don't take the 170 as a stay year farm, but the stay years are whatever the average number is. Most of them are probably in the range of, let's say, 14 years before people sell. Like this is the average for the whole farm. Some people sell at 5 years, some people sell at 30 years. But if you take the average, you get a number somewhere around, let's say, 14, 15 years. The stay year farm takes either side of that by 2 years and pulls a farm. So instead of 90501 having 5,333, that stay year farm might have 800. So now you have a farm of 800, but when we merge ready to sell and most likely we get a much smaller number, and that becomes the ready to sell list. Okay, that's stay year. And then you have your standard absentee owner, which many of you know what that is as far as mailing to that group. They may or may not want to sell. They might be tired of renting a property, whether it's the 3 T's, the trashes, tenants, and taxes, and they just don't want to be part of it. So they might want to sell it. So there's lots of opportunity there, but you can get this for any zip code, any area. I just happen to run these because they're near your market area for you to see. Any questions for me about it, or what you could run or ask for? Anyone have any questions? Or any questions on that legislative piece? I know.
So when is this bill taking effect, or when is this going to be?
Well, this is already, the bill's been passed.
It's already been
Yes,
passed.
and so if you read it, every county has now been tasked with applying it.
Gotcha.
So if you're thinking LA County, Orange County,
Right.
they'll have to now start to apply it. And once they put their guidelines in place, it goes to all the cities in the county, and then they get to decide. So it has some steps in it, but I promise you homeowners are gonna ask about it. They're gonna see it on the news, they're gonna talk about it. So I just highly recommend reading that, just have a general idea of what could come up in the conversation, so you're not totally blindsided.
And I believe this process is not going to be a very simple process,
Correct.
as you said, Matt. I mean, I can already see some of the issues coming up,
Oh, yeah.
right? One APN number, right? Which is similar to a social security attached to us. An APN number is attached to the
lot.
property,
Yeah.
to the lot itself. And if you did in the past create or did an ADU, now you're gonna have to do subdivide, right? And now there's probably gonna be other additional requirements, right? An easement may be a part of it. because most ADUs don't have garages, you know, so.
Yeah, you'd have to have
it's- there-
access for ingress egress.
There's gonna be a lot of elements, and it's interesting to find out what the outcome is.
And they're
regarding
talking, that sits in the bottom of the sense that they would need to create an HOA. So that they have some type of regulation. on
HOA
it.
is more the same.
You know, that might end up being CCNR, that we're talking a lot of stuff here that.
Yeah.
That are gonna, it's gonna show up as a need. So it's not gonna happen tomorrow, but it's worth you at least knowing that it's out there as a discussion, so you're not surprised if the homeowner brings it up to you.
But what are the benefits that I see from a seller's perspective, right? They did and converted the garage or add an ADU. Now you can sell it as a separate entity, right?
Right.
And imagine the price that you can sell in ADU, right? Maybe you invested 100,000, but because it's a dwelling, now you can sell it for 300, 400,000 dollars.
Yeah.
Like per se, right? So I see the value and I see a lot of sellers thinking, maybe it's time to relinquish that and start the process.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be a very tedious process in my opinion, but I could be wrong.
And then some of the ADUs that are out there, it could be a garage conversion that's attached to the house.
Right.
They could be a junior ADU, which is connected to the house with a separate door. Well, did I get to sell those? It's part of the house. I don't think so, but we'll see what comes out at the other end of every county making decisions, and then every city basically is gonna get to say yes or no. So for example, Torrance could say, we're not gonna do that,
Sure,
but they could do it. So it's just gonna be a domino effect of what transpires.
excellent.
All right,
Thank you, Matt,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Every time this week,
Say again?
that article was in the Daily Times.
Yeah, that's what it says. It says October 14. So it's gonna be interesting in how this kind of plans out. You know, I see benefits from it as an agent too. You may have two transactions involved. Well, so,
You can have people that can afford.
absolutely, yeah. Cool, cool. All right, well, let's go ahead and continue. Now, next up is Mr. Fred Howard.
Wait. How many of you in here opened the door today?
What door?
Everybody.
Who opened the door today? Any door?
All of us.
See, because remember, we have this every morning, 8 o'clock mindset, right? Real estate is a mindset,
That's right.
okay? It's a mindset. There's 3 ways to make money in real estate. You can go after it, you can pay for it, or you can wait for it, okay? All of those things. So real estate is a mindset. So I'm gonna ask the question again, who in here opened the door today? Okay? So, this is all I wanna say, and then I'm gonna sit down. Okay, so I'm gonna say. Behind every door is a new opportunity to make a difference. Whether it's your car door, your house door, the door to whatever, the back door. Every door you open is an opportunity to make a difference. So while we're in this season of real estate, all I can do is say, make a difference, okay? That's all I got. And then I just wanna say, productivity classes moved up to 1 o'clock because I'm a member of Paperless Agents, and they're having a class today that's dealing with what's going on in the courts with real estate commissions. So we're gonna be watching that video. Okay. Oh. Who's having this? That's it. Thank you.
Just to, thank you for sharing, Fred, just kind of piggyback on what you were saying about opportunities, it definitely resonates with me because I'm a true believer that opportunities are out there if you seek it, right? No one knows that you're in real estate until you're proactively engaged in a conversation and having a real estate conversation that leads to those opportunities, right? But a lot of agents are leaving the industry as we speak.
Oh, wow.
Okay, a lot of agents are leaving the industry as we speak. And they're making all kinds of excuses. Okay. And that's perfectly fine. Because that gives us more opportunity to cultivate more sellers, more buyers, more investors. Okay? People still need to buy, people still need to sell, people still need to invest. Life changes, right? People get a divorce, people get married, people have children, people retire. Okay, that's not gonna stop. The question is, are you willing to open the door for those opportunities? Okay, I was watching a social media yesterday evening, and the guy that was talking, I don't remember his name, he says, the people that are marketing are controlling the market. The people that are marketing are controlling the market. What does that mean? What does that resonate with? Right? If you're showcasing yourself as the agent proactively engaged, doing social media, doing videos, posting stuff, communicating, you're gonna see results from it. Okay? Not today, but I'm also gonna share what's going on with the National Association of Realtors. You know what's going on with NAR? There's a big lawsuit going on right now as we speak.
Oh, wow.
It started yesterday out in Kansas City. I was having a conversation with this morning's producer's mindset. On that it can possibly impact us as real estate professionals when it comes to commissions. Okay? The plaintiff is suing the National Association of Realtors, suing a Service America company, and also KWSB is involved in this as defendants. Now, I'm not gonna go deep into this conversation, I still need to do some more research, but if you're not on the updates on what's going on right now, be prepared, okay? I don't know where it's gonna go, but it's a case that it's gonna take about 3 weeks. Is their ideal time frame on this court case? And it could go left, it can go right, okay? And the argument in the lawsuit is basically that agents are being paid too much commission.
We need that commission.
Okay. We're one of the fewest states that still allows dual agency. You know that there are states out that do not allow dual agency. Does everyone know what dual agency means when you represent a buyer and a seller? Okay. We're one of the few states that still allows it. But from a principle, from a seller's perspective, they don't know what they don't know. We know, right? If you're selling your own property, meaning you have an agent representing you on your property and you're an agent, you know that you're gonna put a stipulation there that you cannot represent, you know, a buyer. I would, because do they really have my best interest? Yeah. Right? But a lot of consumers don't know. So a lot of the segues and the waves that are happening right now is agents are being paid too much of a commission. Okay, now all of us know that NAR, the California Association of Realtors, our local boards don't dictate the commission. Who dictates the commission? Anyway,
The consumer and both.
yeah, the seller, the brokerage, the agent, right? When you go on the listing appointment, right, you talk about the marketing, you talk about the CMA, right, the comparable market analysis that you do, how you're gonna sell, and then you go into the net sheet. And then there on the net sheet, what did it have? What does it have? Sorry. It has commissions, right? If you look at a commission based on $1 million at 6%, 3 and 3, that's $30,000 going one way. And then another 30,000 with the buyer side. So the argument here is agents are getting too much of a commissions. Now, I've been in this industry for 26 years. Tammy, 26, 27 years. How many years in real estate? Brandon?
90.
That's what it feels like. 30 years. Okay.
That's what it feels
Has
like.
it been standard practice since I can remember 5 to 6% commission?
Yeah, and not to segue or, the lawsuit is an antitrust.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
and what it's really saying is that most agents on the listing side are not allowing seller to negotiate, or what they're saying are things like, if you don't offer a co-broke, no one will show it. That's an antitrust.
Correct.
That's a big part of it. And
But it's gonna be twisted, it's gonna be manipulated to make it look like we're not doing our job, and this is why the National Association has a code of ethics, right? To protect the consumers, the people that we service. So it's gonna be very interesting of what develops from this. Yes, Rosie?
Or they see commercials on TV, we can sell your house for 2%, for 2%, so maybe that's the reason they're thinking that.
Now, is the commission's negotiable?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the seller can say one thing, the agent can say another thing, doesn't mean they have to come to an agreement, right? But this lawsuit has to do with antitrust, and it has to do with commission. So it's gonna be very interesting in the few weeks on where it kind of lands, you know, if it wins or loses, it's gonna be very interesting. So as I gather more information, I'll definitely provide you with some updates. If you hear anything, please share it with us, you know, so we can collaborate and just bring unison to, you know, this matter, because it will impact us all. And I know it's happening in the east side, it hasn't really impacted us on the west side, but be prepared, folks. Any other thoughts, questions, or concerns? All right, well, let's go ahead and continue. Thanks, Brenda, for sharing. All right, any listing pitches or buyer needs and wants coming soon? Anyone like to share? Yes, Heather. Heather, come closer, because we have people on Zoom that may not hear you. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you.
This is
Good
Heather.
afternoon, everybody. I have a lease listing in Torrance coming soon. It's 90505 Marble Estates. It's 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, has a pool, move-in ready. It's going to be listed about next week. So if you have anybody, the lease listing price will be 5,500. Thank you.
How much? Say that.
5,500. But it's over 2,000 square feet. Torrance School District with a pool.
Awesome, thank you. Anyone else? Nathan?
Just listed, 9 property portfolio, 8 properties in Oxnard. Totaling 201 units, so it's spread across those 8 properties, and then 13 unit in Ventura. So you guys could find me to go over pricing, because they're priced individually and also as a portfolio.
Beautiful. How'd you get that listing?
What was that?
How did you get the listing?
Yeah. Started engaging with this guy, and then we brought him with a really strong offer off market.
Okay,
And then he went to Hawaii, met with his family. This is gonna, you know, result in him retiring, because he's gonna do a 1031 exchange and then just live off of mailbox checks, basically. He doesn't want to manage anything anymore. And he just couldn't swallow selling it and not knowing that everybody saw it to give him the best price. So he had to put all of them on the market.
beautiful. So there's business out there, folks. Prime example here. Awesome. Thanks, Mason, for sharing. Anyone else? Okay, well, let's go ahead and continue. Next slide, please. Here we go. All right, let's give you some update stats of what's going on in the local South Bay. So next slide, please. All right, we're going right into Manhattan Beach. Oops. Okay. All right, so Manhattan Beach, highest sale price was 14,500,000. That sold August 15. Average-
bedroom or 1 bedroom?
That's probably a 1 bedroom. That's probably a studio. How much is it? What's that?
I was just paying you.
Yeah, exactly. 14.5, average sales price right now is 4,100,000. Your medium sales price in Manhattan Beach is 2,999. down 11.8 since June 2023. And that's also all of the coastal properties as well. All right, so we have 71 sold properties. We have 41 active properties, and we have 3 pending in Manhattan Beach. Okay, next slide. All right, so now we're going into Torrance. So the 90501, the highest sales price was 1.6. And that sold September 18. Average sales price was $1,047,000. Median sales price was $1,010,000. We're down 12.9 since June 2023. Okay, and that's interesting because everyone knows the 501 zip code. It's closer to the 1010 freeway. So that's a very high price point. All right, next slide. We had 30 sold home, 14 actives, and 4 pending. And your average price was 29 days, period, 29 sold. Oh, no, I apologize. Periods with 29 sold versus 29 in the previous 3 months. So it's a kind of a rollover. Okay, next slide, Nat, please. All right, now we're going into 90502. Highest sales price was $939, sold September 5th. Average sales price was $780, and your median sales price was $767, down 7%. Next slide. We had 14 sold, 2 active, and 1 pending. Now we're going into the 90503, which is considered what? West Torrance, thank you. Highest sales price was 2.265. That sold August 4th. Average sales price was $1,337,000, and your median sales price was $1,310,000. That area went up 7.4%. Okay, and that's on the cusp. You look at it right here, cusp of Redondo Beach. Okay, next slide. All right, so we had 48 sold, 8 active, and 1 pending. Okay, next slide. I think we're going down to 90504. Yep. Okay, so highest sales price was $1,415,000. And that sold September 15. Average sales price was $964,383. Median sales price was $939. We were down 8.5, 3.5. Okay, what area is this?
North Torrance.
North Torrance, yep. All right, so North Torrance had 52 sold, 10 active, and 5 pending. 5 pending. All right, next is 90505. That's our neighborhood. This is all of this area here. Highest sales price was 2.451, sold September 22nd. The average sales price was 1.478. Medium sales price was 1.452. We were up 11.7%. Okay. And that was on the tip cusp of Lomita and Rolling Hills. Okay, this is a PCH. And we got the airport. We're Hawthorne right here. So we're probably like right around here. So this property sold here for 2.5 million. Torrance. Okay. All right, so this area has gone up substantially. All right, next slide. I think now we're going into Redondo Beach. Okay, so Redondo 17. Okay, cool. I thought I read that wrong, but it is 17. All right, so the highest sales price was 17,500. That sold September 13. 17 million. Imagine if you were the agent selling this property, right? I'll take 1%. 17.
That's
Do the
cheaper,
math
right?
on this. Do the math. Obviously, there was an agent involved in this, or two agents involved in this, right? So,
It sounds good then.
yeah, and I bet you it's one of those beautiful homes overlooking the ocean and also the city views as well. So that sold September 13. Average sales price was 3.343, and your medium sales price was 2,215,000, up 23.1%.
Wow.
Okay, so I would focus and concentrate on areas that you're seeing a lot of activity. Obviously, Redondo Beach is one of them, Torrance is another. The conversions in these cities are constantly people selling, people buying. So plant that seed, ladies and gentlemen, and go out there and start looking for business. Okay, next slide, please. Oh, sorry. Okay. I thought I was still waiting for the next slide. All right, so now we're going into the 90278 area, which the highest price point was 3.915. Average sales price was $1,453,000. Medium sale price was 1.420, down 5.3. Next slide. We had 38 sold, 12 active, and 3 pending. Okay. Last but not least, we got Hermosa Beach. Okay, Hermosa had the highest price point in the month of September 13, 12,400,000. Your average sales price was 3.371, 300, and your medium sales price home was 2.450, down 33.2%. Probably one of those tall and skinny, right, with the 3,000 lot size, right? You have peekaboo views of the ocean. Hermosa and Manhattan, extremely high price point areas. All right, so we have 27 sold, 10 active, and 0 pending in September. Okay.
Well, was there a decrease in, you said there was a decrease in sales price?
In Hermosa?
Yeah.
Yes.
Of 33%?
No, 5.3.
Oh,
Now go back to the previous slide real quick. Let me double check. Yeah, 33, my
yeah,
apologies,
but the
33.
average sales price is going up like
Yeah.
30%, that's 3.5.
Well, you know, Hermosa has high price point properties there too. You know,
Oh,
the
yeah.
average or anywhere from 3 to 5, give or take. So yeah, it's a big number, 33% from the previous. So any questions regarding stats? What are you feeling out there? What do you see? Right, I see, as Patricia says, I see opportunity. What else?
Properties back in the market.
Property back on the market, okay. What else? Good. What else are you seeing out there? Who said that? Fernando, price what? Price reduction. Typically, your higher price points, you're gonna see price reductions. Your bread and butter, your 500 to 900 price point. Usually your bread and butter, we're seeing a lot of activity on those price points. Anything else you're seeing? How do we capitalize on opportunities, folks? Conversations around and about real estate, absolutely. What else?
Following up.
Absolutely. The follow-up, which is one of the most vital pieces on what we do, is the follow-up. We can go and go and go and say we're committed to do 25 calls, and then you get 2 hits on those that are warm leads. How do we convert those warm leads into hot leads, right? It's with a follow-up. Be consistent, be persistent. That's the end result that you'll see momentum and people signing these agreements. Okay? Right now, you should be focused on sellers and sellers only. Okay? If a buyer comes, fantastic. Go after market share, sellers, sellers, sellers. Doesn't matter that the holidays are upon us. This is when very few competitors are out there because they start slowing down. This is where we do not slow down. This is where we stay consistently engaged in the activities that will lead us to those opportunities, folks. You heard Fred this afternoon right now, talking about opening up the door, right? You can either open it or leave it shut, right? What else? What else? Am I the only one today?
Lunch.
I know it's a big, pizza always, fills things up. All right, well, appreciate the feedback. Well, let's go ahead and, continue with the next slide. So I think we have, Fernando. On my next slide, please, Nat. So go out there and work, folks. That's all you have to do. All right, the beauty of real estate. All right, Fernando Diaz, CMG, hello. How many calls did you make today? How's it going?
Good, guys. So, real quick, as you guys know, rates have moved up a bit this week. And well, they just announced, I mean, basically, at 0 points, guys, everything's pretty much in the eighth. That's 0 points. So it is, TMZ just released an article about an hour ago.
So 8%?
At 0 points, everything is for the most part in the eighth now. For the most part, at 0 points. Keep that in mind. So, but like Simon said, guys, you know what, it's a good point. As rates have moved up, for whatever reason, I mean, I had a team meeting with my team last week. We're actually very busy. And I think a lot of people, when you get out there, the rates have been high now long enough where people have accepted it, which is what it is, okay? So what I'm noticing is that people say, look, I know the rates are not 2 or 3% anymore, or even 4%, but the reality is I'm still renting, or I still want to retire, make a move, or I want to do something. And what we're noticing is like our pre-call or pre-approval activity is still very consistent and very high. So people want to at least sit down and know what their options are, okay, which is a very positive thing, guys. Okay, so that's the issue. What's that? Buy downs, like I said, but not last week, the week before, we had 3 contracts in, 2 had massive buy downs built into those offers. So that's another way, guys, to get them very comfortable. And you'd be surprised. There's a lot of people out there that are the perfect candidates for a buy down because maybe they have young kids right now and the spouse is going to go back to work. So all of a sudden that would dramatically change the income for the family. I've seen that. Okay. I've also seen clients that say, hey, not now, but next year I'm up for this big promotion. And my direct report says that it looks like, they're voting for me to get it. And that could be a significant increase in income. So obviously, it could be a tough situation for them today, but if that comes through or their spouse goes back to work and all that, it changes everything for them. Okay. So you guys, but once again, that's about, like Simon said earlier, about asking questions, having those conversations, working a little harder, digging a little deeper with these clients to make sure that, hey, did we really cover everything completely? Okay. I said it before, don't be afraid to ask about gifts, money, even outside of direct parents. It could be the grandparents, it could be a rich uncle, it could be whoever. Okay, because you'd be surprised what's out there. Okay, and then the other thing I will tell you guys, because obviously it's getting a little tougher, and I call it know what you have. Okay, so when you have a client that says, hey, we make $100,000 or $120,000 a year, we have about $40,000 saved up, ask the question, is there more money there? Is there a cosigner available potentially too? Maybe the parents want to move in with them because they're getting closer to retirement. They just, want to do something together. Okay. Because 120,000 in today's market, guys, with low down, ain't gonna get you much in terms of income. Unfortunately, that's, I'd say about $500,000 with an FHA, 500,000.
With the unit. Maybe the unit.
With an ADU. Did you talk about that article I seen this morning?
Yeah.
Tell us. What, the ADU thing?
Yeah.
Matt was talking about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought that was, our people are off the rocker, but.
It was on Facebook already.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine, like, okay, I'm gonna sell my house, but you can't have the garage. It's an ADU until you're owned by somebody else. And not to mention, you know, you're gonna have to probably do CCNRs, you're gonna, that's not cheap. You're gonna have to hire an attorney to do, because the whole thing becomes common grant, who knows?
There's
So-
gonna be a lot.
And I don't see how that's gonna go smooth anytime soon, but whatever. But yeah, those are basically the market conditions, guys. I mean, with time, things will improve in the essence of rates. But right now, there seems to be a disconnect, you know, when the war broke out, it really brought down the rates for, let's say, about 2 or 3 days. Then the economic data hit and it just skyrocketed the other way. It didn't like what it saw. So, you know, I think there's a disconnect between the Fed and the bond market. The bond market is going off numbers and facts, and the Fed is just trying to be nice and just keep things simple, and they're disconnected right now. We'll see what happens. And that's it. Let's get a question. Nope. Nope. All right.
Awesome. All right, thanks, Amanda. That next slide, please, and do I have share capability? All right, so thank you, Nat. What I wanted to share with you is something that we're seeing more and more happening right now is wholesalers. You guys know what wholesalers are?
Yes.
Okay, I want to share my computer because I want to show you something from their contract. Okay, if you look at the RPA under the purchase agreement under page 2, section K is in key. It talks about assignment request. Okay, and it also says that the assignment request can be up to 17 days. Okay, days after acceptance. Right, what we're seeing a lot right now, and I'm also seeing it now surprisingly with move-in condition property. Not your junkers, the ones that are flippers and all that. We're seeing a high rise of people trying to wholesale. So what they're doing is they're tying up the properties, okay? You have the listing, okay? An offer is submitted. The offer gets accepted. Now, that particular buyer is now fishing to try to find an end user, wholesaling it to this end user, so that end user will close the deal. Okay? That buyer is getting a spread, and that spread can be in the thousands. Their intention is not really to close the deal, but to lock the deal, secure the deal, and find and identify these wholesalers that want to go in there and buy it for a difference of the spread, okay? Now, in the past, it was not allowed. In the present, based on this purchase agreement, it is allowed. Okay, I'm going to prove to you that fact. If you look under the K, it says 23. What does 23 mean? Okay, that's paragraph 23, by the way. So if I go to paragraph 23, I hope I don't get anyone dizzy, but just past it. I apologize. Paragraph 23, it says assignment. Buyer shall have the right to assign all buyer interests in this agreement. What does that mean? It means that the buyer that locked in this property has the ability to assign it to anyone else, meaning its own entity, right? If the buyer has a corporation, LLC, S Corp, C Corp, if the buyer has a trust that they want to put it into their trust, that's what an assignment is, right? But it also allows this particular buyer to lock in this property or tie this property, the ability to assign it to someone else. And if we go back to page 2, under that paragraph, it says 17 days, meaning that the buyer has 17 days to find and identify if they're going to assign it to their corporation, their LLC, S Corp, C Corp, or find someone else to take possession. be in position to close the deal. Okay? So I want you to be diligent in your approach and be proactive. And when you see an offer, ask a lot of questions. Okay? Some of the biggest red flags that we see is, and I'm not saying that all buyers don't perform or close, right? Because they do. But you gotta be very careful because ultimately you go with the anticipation that this buyer is gonna close, and now we fall out of escrow because we didn't do our due diligence and ask the right questions, and now the seller is upset. Because this buyer was not intending to close, but was kind of in hopes that they can make a profit and a commission out of it from this deal. Yeah.
So I have a buddy who does this, and I was talking to him about a couple, so he does, he'll source deals for his investors that he's wholesaling to that are off the market, but then he'll also go through listings throughout the whole country on Zillow, find deals that seem undervalued, and then boom, try to put together a wholesaling transaction. My question is, when this gets assigned to the actual buyer, or just in the process of escrow, because this is what I was tripping out about. I said, what's your spread here? He gave me a spread. I ran it through the purchase price. He was making like 9%, whereas the listing agent off of Zillow, they were probably, they probably made 2.5% since they only repped one side. Or if they repped the buyer, they made what, 5%?
Yeah.
But so he's taking home 9%, and the only question I had, which, I don't know how honest that, part of whatever the people are doing, but shouldn't it be disclosed to the seller what that spread is? Like, doesn't the seller, because obviously that's legal, the assignment fact.
Yeah.
Isn't there something that the seller, like,
You have to
they
disclose
should know what the spread is for that wholesaler, right? Because that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and that's,
But you're a licensed agent.
and that's where a lot of this comes into play, and I know it's gonna go in a different direction, okay? And I don't wanna go for the sake of time, but I just wanna finish up with this, means here. So buyer shall have the right to assign the buyer's interest in this agreement by its own trust or its own wholly owned entity of buyer at the existence of the time such assignment. Otherwise, buyer shall not assign all of any part of the buyer's interest in the buyer without first obtaining a separate written, and that's the key, written consent of the seller. So meaning if they're putting it into their personal trust, corporation is perfectly fine. But here's the problem we're seeing, agents are not reading, not understanding, and I'm talking about the listing agent. This is why we're having a lot of issues, okay? Because the buyer is going out here trying to find an end user to make a spread and then find someone else that's going to close the deal. But now the listing agent is in the middle of this, like, okay, you're not doing and not acting and not really taking care of your seller's best interest, because immediately, if you know the contract, you must get a written consent from the seller. If they're gonna wholesale it to someone else, they still need to get the consent because they accepted your offer based on the price, okay? And if they're gonna wholesale it and make a 10, 15, 20, 30, and I've seen $100,000 spreads, that puts us in a very challenging situation, in my opinion, where I can see the liability. I'm just saying, okay? So how do we handle these type of situations, right? Well, the seller can counter that, right? Reduce the time frame to wholesale it, right? Tighten up the belt, right? Just like we do with any other contingencies, right? Physical, appraisal, loan contingencies, right? Instead of 17 days, we take 10 days, 5 days, 12 days, whatever that looks like, tying up the belt on this. And this is another factor that I want you to, as a listing agent, when an offer comes in, that you're engaged in saying, okay, this feels a little funny. I need to ask a lot of questions. Okay, 1 second. And knowing how to counter that. Because based on this, it's not assignable if it's not in writing. And a lot of these buyers are now putting it in third-party websites. And I ended up flagging an agent who submitted an offer for a buyer that ended up connecting with someone else that put it on the social media, a website that was all about wholesaling flip properties and move-in ready condition properties as well. So I immediately told them, you need to stop, you don't have an exclusive agreement. You don't know the contract, and immediately that listing was taken out of that platform. And then the buyer ended up canceling because the buyer, the original buyer, couldn't close the deal. Okay, so you gotta be proactive in that conversation. Tammy,
So basically what you're saying is there has to be an AOAA sign,
that's right.
so.
Yeah.
Right.
Your point is, I think, is for everybody to understand the tactic behind it, not necessarily the fact that they're not reading it and understanding. If you read it and understand it, as a listing agent, you should be qualifying buyer.
100%.
Point one.
Right.
Point two is the tactic is, if I've got your property tied up for 3 weeks and I know your seller's already committed to go somewhere, they're probably not wanting to go back. And
Right.
so I have a little bit more power in the negotiation at that point, and I think that's the strategy we need to understand as well.
100%.
Just black and white.
Yeah, love it, absolutely.
I think that's a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're not gonna be able-
Well, and what's happening is putting a lot of strain and frustration on the seller. And the sellers are saying, well, what's going on? And if you don't know how to have a conversation, it's gonna make you look in a position that you don't really know what's going on.
Let me just make sure everybody understands, because
Brandon,
I teach a workshop on.
Brandon, come up here, talk.
Guys,
Because the people on Zoom will probably won't be able to hear you.
that's okay, I'm sorry. What I think is important for you guys to understand as a wholesaler is there are people who make a living doing it. Yeah, okay, and the only difference between a wholesaler and what you do is being licensed is they're not regulated the same way you are.
That's right.
And so to Simon's point, it's critical that you're paying attention to your clients because that's where your fiduciary is. But understand it's still a business for them, but they don't have to follow the same guidelines. So Jim, to your point, I see it's a lawsuit waiting to happen. Nobody sues people who don't have insurance.
I got the wholesaler
Right?
was licensed, that's why. But if you see something they're not licensed.
Yeah, they're not licensed, which is, it's an easy, like, I've had this conversation with other attorneys, you know, because I've been in Colorado as an example. And my argument with them is they have a lot of restrictions. It's easier to not have a license and sell real estate in Colorado than it is. Okay, and I'm saying that in a loving way, but I also want you to understand in the last 7 years, this is what the bigger pockets of the world does, is they go to the consumer and they make you a bird dog. And they teach other people how to be bird dogs without a license, they don't have to follow the same rules. But if you understand how the game is played, you can better protect your clients, especially in a listing situation, right?
That's right.
So some of us might not know what the radar is, that if you're the listing agent, anybody that brings you an offer that's under an entity, anyone who is not putting their earnest money in, as an example, those are the red flags that that person has no intention probably to buy the home. And there's a high probability that it's a wholesaler. And another tactic that's starting to happen is those wholesalers are getting away from putting it under names of entities and they're using real people's names. So it's giving the appearance. So it is extremely important that before you go under contract with anyone, especially when it comes to proof of funds or the lender, that you say, before I send this to the seller, I want you to know I'm going to be talking to the lender and I'm going to be talking, right, maybe to the bank for the proof of funds, just to ensure that this is legit.
If they're using their actual names though, they still have to put and or assignee, right?
So I know what the speed limit is too.
Yeah.
But I don't go the speed limit. So the point is, most people are gonna try and push the envelope as far as they can until somebody pushes back. And so I think most of us don't, we're just not in the world of people trying to take advantage of us.
Right.
And it happens more frequently than not, right? And it sucks, because we've been down that path, Danny and I, we've had, as an example, we put a new listing on the market, next thing you know, the seller sending you an email going, why is this person selling the house to, or whatever the scenario is, and to your point with Zillow, it's just a fast way to get cash. But the more you learn it and you go on a listing presentation and you can say, one of the reasons you're gonna hire me, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, is I can protect you from these things. Right? So anyway, I didn't wanna.
No, thank you for sharing your
Yeah.
your feedback on this. Right, we gotta continue and stop just because of the sake of Fred, it's 1 o'clock, so we're gonna end it now. So if you have any additional questions or just wanna get how that works, please reach out to me, send me an email, text, or just send me in the office. And I'll be more than happy to provide you with any information. Okay? So let's quickly, just a couple of updates. Okay, this Friday, I have the producers club. I'm gonna be having my guest speaker Bernadette at 8 o'clock. So please be sure to support us. Friday's producers mindset. Next slide. Farming panel with J10 and Allegheny. That'll be October 24 at 11 a.m. Here in the training room, some of the top agents are going to be giving you some insights on how to go out and farm. And talking to these two individuals, they know farming and they do it consistency and they get listings from it. So please make sure to be here in the training room. Next slide. This was going to be a good one. The 2024 housing forecast. Stephen Thomas will be here in the office, giving us the insights of what's going to happen in 2024. Okay, that'll be October 25th, 11 a.m. And then right after is our team meeting. Okay, so we want to have lots of participation. Next slide. And then we have the Financial Network Breakfast with David Ashar, KW Commercial. That'll be at the Porsche dealership out in the West Side, Beverly Hills area. And that's November 2nd from 9 to 11. Okay, next slide. And then our Thanksgiving potluck. Next slide. And then our South County Classic Golf. If you're interested, that'll be December 13th. If you want to be part of it, please. All proceeds will go to KW Cares. Next slide. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Sorry.